Ethan Parker's hands were still shaking when his boss, the ice-cold executive who had never spoken to him outside a conference room, knelt in the sand beside his 6-year-old daughter and said, "I think your castle needs a moat." 20 minutes earlier, a gust of wind had stripped away more than Claire Whitmore's beach cover-up. It had torn down every wall between them. What happened next wasn't supposed to be possible. A single father working 80-hour weeks, a woman who had sacrificed everything for a corner office, and one accident that should have ended his career, but instead changed both their lives forever. If you want to see how far a single moment of humanity can take two people who've forgotten what it feels like, stay with me until the end. And hey, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button if you believe second chances don't always look the way you expect. Ethan Parker had exactly 14 minutes. 14 minutes before Lily's gymnastics class ended. 14 minutes to grab the grocery order he'd called in that morning, pick up her allergy medication from the pharmacy, and somehow make it back across town without hitting every red light like he usually did. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, eyes flicking between the dashboard clock and the rear-view mirror, where a half-empty car seat sat waiting. The medication could wait until tomorrow. The groceries couldn't. Lily's lunch options were currently limited to stale crackers and a questionable yogurt cup that had been sitting in the fridge since Tuesday. Maybe Wednesday. Ethan couldn't remember anymore. The days blurred together now. Wake up, drop off, work, pick up, dinner, homework, bedtime, collapse, repeat. He used to have hobbies. He used to have friends. He used to have a wife. Now he had Lily, and that was enough. It had to be. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. He didn't look. It was probably work. It was always work. Cascade Solutions didn't care that he was a single father. They cared about quarterly reports, client retention metrics, and whether his team hit their targets. Ethan's title, Senior Data Analyst, sounded impressive until you realized it meant drowning in spreadsheets, while someone 3 levels above you took credit for your insights. Someone like Claire Whitmore. Even thinking her name made his jaw tighten. Claire Whitmore, Vice President of Strategic Operations, the woman who had walked into his department 6 months ago and reorganized everything with the warmth of a corporate restructuring memo. She was brilliant, ruthless, and completely untouchable. She didn't do small talk. She didn't do pleasantries. She did results. Ethan had spoken to her exactly 4 times. Each conversation lasted under 2 minutes. Each one left him feeling like he'd just been audited. He pulled into the parking lot with 3 minutes to spare, grabbed the grocery bags with one hand, and jogged toward the gym entrance. Inside, a dozen 6-year-olds in leotards were tumbling across mats, while exhausted parents scrolled their phones along the wall. Ethan scanned the room and found Lily immediately, dark curls bouncing as she attempted a cartwheel that looked more like a sideways collapse. She saw him and her whole face lit up. That smile was the only thing that made the 80-hour weeks worth it. "Daddy!" She sprinted over, crashing into his legs with the full force of 38 pounds of pure energy. "Did you see? I almost did it." "You nailed it, sweetheart." He crouched down, brushing a curl out of her eyes. "You ready to go?" "Can we go to the beach?" Ethan blinked. "The beach? Please? You said maybe this weekend. It's Saturday." He had said that 3 weekends ago. And then work exploded, and his ex-wife moved the custody schedule around again, and the weekends disappeared into the same black hole that swallowed everything else. Lily's eyes were wide and hopeful, and Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. When was the last time he'd done something just because she asked? When was the last time he'd said yes to anything that wasn't mandatory? "Okay," he heard himself say, "let's go to the beach." Her shriek of joy made every parent in the room turn and stare. Ethan didn't care. He scooped her up, grabbed the grocery bags, and headed for the car before he could change his mind. The beach was only 20 minutes away, but it felt like stepping into another world. The moment Ethan parked and opened the door, the smell of salt and sunscreen hit him like a memory he'd forgotten he had. Lily was already unbuckling herself, bouncing in her seat. "Can I get ice cream after?" "We'll see." "That means yes." "That means we'll see." She giggled and grabbed his hand as they walked toward the sand. It was mid-afternoon and the beach was crowded. Families sprawled on towels, kids shrieking in the surf, couples walking hand in hand near the water. Ethan found a spot far enough from the chaos and spread out the blanket he'd grabbed from the trunk. Lily was already kicking off her shoes. "Stay where I can see you," he called after her as she bolted toward the water. "I will." Ethan sat down, letting the tension drain from his shoulders for the first time in weeks. The sun was warm. The breeze was perfect. For a few stolen hours, he didn't have to be anyone's employee or anyone's ex-husband. He could just be Lily's dad. He watched her chase the waves, laughing every time the water touched her toes. She was fearless in a way he used to be. Before the divorce, before the custody battles, before he learned that love could be weaponized. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. Claire Whitmore. "Need the Henderson projections by Monday morning. No exceptions." Ethan's jaw clenched. It was Saturday. He was at the beach with his daughter, and Claire Whitmore was still finding ways to colonize his weekends. He shoved the phone back into his pocket and stood up. He'd deal with it later. Right now, Lily was waving at him from the water's edge, and that mattered more than any projection Claire Whitmore could possibly need. He jogged down to meet her, and she immediately grabbed his hand. "Come on, Daddy, let's build a castle." They found a spot closer to the dunes where the sand was wet and packable. Lily started digging with her hands, and Ethan knelt beside her, shaping walls and towers while she narrated an entire kingdom into existence. A princess lived there. She had a dragon. The dragon was nice and only ate vegetables. Ethan smiled. "What's the princess's name?" "Lily." "Of course it is." "And she's really brave. She's not scared of anything." "Just like you." Lily beamed at him, and Ethan felt his chest tighten again. This was what mattered. Not the reports, not the metrics, not impressing people who didn't even know his daughter's middle name. He was still thinking that when the wind picked up. It wasn't a gentle breeze, it was a sudden gust that kicked up sand and sent beach umbrellas tumbling. Ethan instinctively turned his back to shield Lily, and that's when he heard it. A sharp gasp, a woman's voice tight with shock. He turned, and his entire world stopped. 30 feet away, standing near the dunes, was Claire Whitmore. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was supposed to be in some pristine penthouse overlooking the city, reviewing reports and crushing dreams. She wasn't supposed to be human enough to go to a beach. But there she was. White cover-up, oversized sunglasses, hair pulled back in a way he'd never seen before. And the wind had just ripped her cover-up clean off her body. Ethan's brain short-circuited. Claire stood frozen, arms crossed over her chest, eyes wide with humiliation. The cover-up tumbled across the sand like a piece of discarded trash. A few people nearby turned to look. Someone laughed. Ethan didn't think. He just moved. He grabbed the beach towel from their spot, sprinted over, and held it out to her without looking directly at her. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "Here," he said, voice rough. Claire snatched the towel and wrapped it around herself, her face burning red. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The world around them continued, kids laughing, waves crashing, seagulls crying, but between them, there was only silence and the crushing weight of mortification. Then their eyes met. Ethan had seen Claire Whitmore intimidate entire boardrooms. He'd seen her dismantle arguments with surgical precision. He'd seen her walk into a room and command it without saying a word. He had never seen her look terrified. "Thank you," she said, barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded. His mouth was dry. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." But her voice cracked, and she looked away quickly, gripping the towel tighter. "Daddy?" Lily's voice cut through the tension like a knife. She was standing a few feet away, staring up at Claire with wide, curious eyes. "Lily, stay back. Is she okay?" Lily stepped closer, completely unfazed. "The wind is really strong today. It knocked over our castle, too." Claire looked down at Lily, and something in her expression shifted. The fear softened. The humiliation gave way to something else, something almost vulnerable. "I'm okay," Claire said quietly. "Thank you for asking." Lily smiled. "Do you want to help us build a new one?" Ethan's heart stopped for the second time in 2 minutes. "Lily, I don't think I'd like that," Claire said. Ethan stared at her. She stared back. And in that moment, the entire axis of his carefully controlled world tilted. They walked back to the spot where the half-built sandcastle sat crumbling in the wind. Ethan's mind was racing. This was his boss, his terrifying, untouchable, ice-cold boss, and she was about to kneel in the sand and build a castle with his 6-year-old daughter. None of this made sense. Claire sat down carefully, tucking the towel around herself. Lily immediately handed her a plastic shovel. "You can be in charge of the moat," Lily announced. "The moat," Claire repeated, as if the word was foreign. "Yeah, it goes all the way around to keep the bad guys out." Claire glanced at Ethan. He couldn't read her expression, but he saw the faintest flicker of something in her eyes. Amusement? Relief? He wasn't sure. She started digging. Lily chattered non-stop, explaining the entire kingdom's political structure, while Claire listened with an attentiveness that felt completely surreal. Ethan knelt on the other side, rebuilding the towers, trying not to think about the fact that this was the same woman who had emailed him 45 minutes ago demanding weekend work. "Your daughter is lovely," Claire said quietly, not looking up from the moat. "Thank you." Ethan's voice came out rougher than he intended. "How old is she?" 6. Just turned 6 last month. She's very confident. She gets that from her mom. The words slipped out before he could stop them, and Ethan immediately regretted it, but Claire just nodded, still focused on the sand. "That's a good thing," she said. "Confidence." Lily looked up. "Do you have kids?" Claire hesitated. "No, I don't." "Do you want them?" "Lily," Ethan started, but Claire held up a hand. "It's okay." She met Lily's gaze with something that looked like honesty. "I don't know. I think I might have missed that window." "You're not old," Lily said matter-of-factly. "My Aunt Jenna just had a baby, and she's like 40. "Lily." Ethan's voice was firm this time. Claire laughed. Actually laughed. It was quiet, almost surprised, like she'd forgotten how. "Your aunt sounds very brave," Claire said. "She is. She's really cool." Lily dumped another pile of sand onto the tower. "You're cool too." Ethan wanted the sand to swallow him whole, but Claire just smiled, soft, real, nothing like the polished mask she wore at work. "Thank you, Lily. That's very kind." They worked in silence for a while, the three of them shaping something fragile and temporary out of sand and water. Ethan kept stealing glances at Claire, trying to reconcile the woman beside him with the one who terrorized conference rooms. She looked different, smaller, somehow. Human. "Can I ask you something?" Claire's voice was quiet, directed at him. Ethan tensed. "Sure." "Why did you help me?" He looked at her, and for the first time he saw past the armor. She wasn't asking as his boss. She was asking as someone who genuinely didn't understand why a stranger would show her kindness. "Because it was the right thing to do," Ethan said simply. Claire's eyes stayed on him for a long moment, searching. Then she nodded, and something unspoken passed between them, an acknowledgement maybe, or a truce. Lily stood up suddenly, brushing sand off her hands. "I'm hungry." Ethan checked his watch. It was later than he thought. "Okay, kiddo, let's pack up." "Can she come?" Lily pointed at Claire. "Lily, I should go," Claire said quickly, standing. She wrapped the towel tighter and looked at Ethan. "Thank you for everything." "You don't have to thank me." "I do." Her voice was firm now, almost sharp. "I do." She turned to Lily. "It was very nice to meet you." "You too," Lily waved enthusiastically. "Bye." Claire smiled one more time, small, fleeting, and then she walked away, disappearing into the crowd like she'd never been there at all. Ethan stood there, watching her go, his heart still pounding for reasons he didn't want to examine. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "I like her." Ethan swallowed hard. "Yeah, me too." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan sat on the couch with his laptop open, staring at the Henderson projections Claire had demanded. The numbers blurred together. His mind kept drifting back to the beach, to the way Claire's hands had trembled when she took the towel, to the way she'd softened when Lily spoke to her. He didn't know what any of it meant. He didn't know if it meant anything at all. But when his phone buzzed and Claire's name appeared on the screen, his pulse spiked. "Claire Whitmore, I owe you more than a thank you." Ethan stared at the message for a long time. Then, against every instinct screaming at him to stay professional, to keep his distance, to protect himself, he typed back, "Ethan, you don't owe me anything." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Claire Whitmore. Coffee, Monday morning, before the office opens. Just to say thank you properly. Ethan's thumb hovered over the keyboard. This was a terrible idea. She was his boss. There were policies, boundaries, 1,000 reasons to say no. But he thought about the way she'd looked at Lily, the way she'd laughed, the way she'd been so carefully, achingly human. Ethan. Okay. He hit send before he could change his mind, and somewhere across the city, Claire Whitmore stared at her phone and wondered what the hell she was doing. Monday morning came too fast. Ethan hadn't slept well. He kept replaying the beach in his mind, every detail, every word, every glance. By the time his alarm went off at 5:30, he'd already been awake for an hour. He got Lily ready for school, dropped her off at his mother's house, and drove to the coffee shop Claire had suggested. It was a small place tucked into a corner downtown, the kind of spot that opened early for lawyers and executives who treated caffeine like a survival tool. Claire was already there. She sat in the back corner dressed in her usual armor, tailored blazer, sharp lines, hair pulled into a sleek bun. But when she saw him, something in her face softened, just for a second. Ethan ordered a black coffee and sat down across from her. "Thank you for coming," Claire said. "You made it sound important." "It is." She folded her hands on the table, and Ethan noticed they weren't quite steady. "What happened on Saturday? That doesn't happen to me." Getting caught in the wind? Being vulnerable. Her voice was quiet, controlled. "I don't do vulnerable. I don't do humiliated, and I certainly don't let employees see me that way. I'm not going to tell anyone." "I know." She met his eyes. "That's why I wanted to thank you. You didn't have to help me. You didn't have to shield me in front of your daughter. You didn't have to treat me like a person instead of a headline." Ethan frowned. "Why wouldn't I treat you like a person?" Claire laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Because most people don't. I'm a role, a position, a name on an email. I'm not this." She gestured vaguely at herself. "I'm not someone who goes to the beach and gets her cover-up blown away. Everyone goes to the beach. Not me. I don't have time for beaches. I don't have time for much of anything." She looked down at her coffee. "But I was there because my therapist told me I needed to do something normal, something that wasn't work. So I went, and the universe decided to punish me for it." Ethan didn't know what to say. This wasn't the Claire Whitmore he knew. This was someone else entirely, someone raw and real and trying very hard not to fall apart. "I don't think the universe was punishing you," he said carefully. "I think you just had a bad moment. We all do. Not like that. Maybe not exactly like that, but we all have moments where we feel exposed." Claire looked at him, really looked at him, and Ethan felt something shift between them. The air felt heavier, the space between them felt smaller. "Your daughter is remarkable," Claire said quietly. "Thank you. She wasn't afraid of me. Should she have been? Most people are. Lily doesn't scare easy." Ethan smiled despite himself. "She gets that from me." Claire's lips twitched. "You're afraid of me?" Terrified? She laughed, real, genuine, unexpected. And Ethan realized he liked the sound of it. "I should let you get to work," Claire said, standing. Ethan stood too. "Claire." She paused, and he saw the way her name sounded different when he said it. Not Vice President Whitmore, just Claire. "I'm glad you went to the beach," he said. She held his gaze for a long moment, and something unspoken passed between them again. Something neither of them was ready to name. "Me too," she said softly. And then she walked out, leaving Ethan standing there with his coffee and the unsettling realization that everything had just changed. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan tried to pretend nothing had happened. He went to work. He filed his reports. He responded to Claire's emails with the same professional efficiency he always had. But every time he saw her name on his screen, His pulse jumped. Every time he passed her in the hallway, he felt the weight of something unfinished hanging between them. She didn't acknowledge him beyond the occasional nod. She didn't bring up the beach. She didn't send any more late-night texts. It was like it had never happened, except it had. And Ethan couldn't stop thinking about it. Lily didn't help. "When is your friend coming over?" she asked one night at dinner. "What friend?" "The lady from the beach." Ethan nearly choked on his water. She's not my friend, Lily." "Why not? She was nice." "She's my boss." So bosses don't come over for dinner." "Why not?" "Because there are rules," Ethan wanted to say. "Because crossing that line is dangerous. Because I can't afford to lose this job. And I definitely can't afford to complicate my life any more than it already is." But Lily was 6. She didn't understand rules. She just understood people. "She seemed sad," Lily said quietly. Ethan looked at her. "What makes you say that?" "I don't know. She smiled, but it looked like it hurt. Out of the mouths of babes." Ethan sighed. "Some people carry a lot, sweetheart. Sometimes it's hard to see." "Do you carry a lot?" His throat tightened. "Sometimes." "Is that why you're always tired?" He reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm not too tired for you. Never for you." Lily squeezed his hand. "I know, Daddy." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan's phone buzzed. "Claire Whitmore." "Are you awake?" His heart kicked against his ribs. "Ethan." "Yeah. What's wrong?" "Claire Whitmore." "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." Ethan stared at the screen. This wasn't a work message. This was something else. "Ethan, do you want to talk about it?" 3 dots. Then nothing. Then, "Claire Whitmore." "Not over text." Ethan's hands were shaking. "Ethan, then where?" "Claire Whitmore." "There's a park near the waterfront, Pine Ridge. Do you know it?" Ethan, "Yeah." "Claire Whitmore, meet me there in 20 minutes. Ethan should have said no. He should have made an excuse, set a boundary, protected himself. Instead, he grabbed his keys. The park was empty when he arrived. Street lamps cast long shadows across the walking path, and the sound of water lapping against the shore filled the silence. Ethan found Claire sitting on a bench near the edge, staring out at the dark expanse of the bay. She didn't turn when he sat down beside her. "I don't know why I asked you to come," she said quietly. "Then why did you?" "Because I don't have anyone else to call." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. He looked at her profile, sharp, controlled, untouchable, and saw the cracks beneath. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing. That's the problem." Claire's voice was tight. "Nothing ever happens. I work, I go home. I work some more. I attend meetings and make decisions and pretend I have a life. But I don't. I have a title and a salary and an empty apartment." "Claire, do you know what I did tonight?" She finally turned to look at him, and her eyes were glassy. "I sat in my office until 9. I answered emails that could have waited until morning. I avoided going home because there's nothing there. No one there. And then I realized I couldn't remember the last time someone asked me how I was and actually wanted to know the answer." Ethan's chest ached. "I'm asking now." "I'm exhausted," she whispered. "I'm so tired of pretending I'm fine." "Then stop pretending." "I can't. If I stop, everything falls apart." "Maybe it needs to." Claire stared at him, and for the first time, Ethan saw her without the armor. Just a woman who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten how to climb down. "I envy you," she said. "Me?" "You have Lily. You have something that matters. I have nothing." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Her voice cracked. "I'm 42 years old. I've spent 20 years building a career, and for what? So I can die alone in a corner office?" "You're not going to die alone." "How do you know?" "Because you're here." Ethan's voice was steady now. "You called me. You're sitting on a bench in the middle of the night asking for help. That's not nothing, Claire. That's brave." She looked away, blinking hard. "I don't feel brave." "You don't have to." They sat in silence for a long time, the sound of the water filling the space between words. Ethan didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to fix this. But he stayed, and somehow that felt like enough. "I'm sorry," Claire said finally. I shouldn't have dragged you out here. I'm glad you did. Why? Because now I know I'm not the only one barely holding it together. Claire let out a breath that might have been a laugh. We're quite a pair. Yeah, we are. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and Ethan felt the air between them shift again. It wasn't professional. It wasn't safe. It was something else entirely. I should go, Claire said, but she didn't move. Okay. Neither of them moved. And in the quiet darkness, with nothing but honesty between them, something neither of them expected began to take root. The silence stretched between them like something fragile and necessary, and neither Ethan nor Claire seemed willing to break it. The water continued its rhythmic conversation with the shore, and somewhere in the distance, a car horn blared before fading into the night. Claire's hands were folded in her lap, her fingers twisted together in a way that suggested she was holding herself in place through sheer force of will. I haven't done this in years, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Done what? Sat somewhere. Just sat. Without an agenda or a meeting or a reason. She looked down at her hands. I forgot what it feels like. Ethan didn't respond right away. He was learning that Claire didn't need solutions. She needed space to exhale, and that was something he understood better than most people realized. He'd spent the last 2 years learning how to breathe in the margins of his own life. It feels uncomfortable at first, he said. Like you're supposed to be doing something? Exactly. Claire glanced at him, and there was something almost grateful in her expression. Does it get easier? Sometimes, when you let it. She nodded slowly, as if absorbing the words. Then she looked back out at the water, and Ethan could see the exhaustion settling into her shoulders like weight she'd been carrying for miles. Can I ask you something personal? Claire's tone was careful, testing boundaries. Go ahead. Your daughter's mother, is she? Not in the picture much, Ethan said, keeping his voice neutral. We share custody, but she's got a new life now, new husband, new priorities. Lily sees her every other weekend, and that's about it. That must be hard. It's complicated. Ethan leaned back against the bench. I wanted it to work. I really did. But some people aren't built for the long haul. She wanted freedom, and I wanted family. Those things don't always line up. Claire was quiet for a moment. Do you resent her? I used to. Now I just feel tired. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm tired of fighting. Tired of proving I'm a good father. Tired of justifying every decision to someone who stopped caring about the details years ago. You shouldn't have to justify anything. Anyone can see you're doing an incredible job. Ethan turned to look at her, surprised by the conviction in her voice. You met me once, at a beach, for 20 minutes. I saw enough. Claire met his eyes. I saw the way your daughter looks at you. That doesn't come from obligation. That comes from love. Something in Ethan's chest cracked open, and he had to look away before the emotion showed on his face. He wasn't used to people seeing him clearly. Most days he felt invisible. Just another struggling single parent trying to keep all the pieces from falling apart. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For saying that. Claire's expression softened. You said I was brave for calling you. But you're brave too. Raising a child alone while working the hours you do, that takes more courage than most people will ever understand. It doesn't feel brave, it feels like survival. Sometimes those are the same thing. They fell into silence again, but it was different now. Less heavy, more honest. Ethan realized with some surprise that he felt comfortable here, sitting in the dark with a woman he barely knew, but somehow understood. I should tell you something, Claire said after a while. Something I probably shouldn't. Ethan's pulse quickened. Okay. I've been thinking about you, since the beach. She kept her eyes on the water. I know I shouldn't. I know it's inappropriate and complicated and a terrible idea, but I can't seem to stop. Ethan's mouth went dry. Claire, I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I just needed to say it out loud to someone who wouldn't judge me for it. I'm not judging you. You should be. I'm your boss. This crosses every line in the employee handbook. You're also human, and humans think about other humans. That's not a crime. It feels like one. Claire finally looked at him, and her eyes were glassy with unshed tears. I've spent my entire career being untouchable, professional, above reproach. And then you hand me a towel and look at me like I'm just a person. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about what that felt like. Ethan's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Every rational part of his brain screamed at him to stand up, walk away, protect himself from the disaster this could become. But a quieter voice, one he'd been ignoring for years, whispered something different. "I've been thinking about you too," he heard himself say. Claire's breath caught. "Ethan, I know it's a terrible idea. I know all the reasons why this can't happen. But I can't lie to you, not after you just told me the truth." "What are we doing?" Claire's voice was shaking now. "I don't know. This is insane." "Yeah. We could both lose our jobs." "I know. And yet you're still sitting here." Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same fear and longing he felt reflected back at him. "Yeah, I am." Claire closed her eyes, and a single tear slipped down her cheek. Ethan watched it fall, resisting the urge to reach out and brush it away. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to be anything other than what I've been." "Then maybe we figure it out together." "That's a terrible plan." "You have a better one?" Claire opened her eyes and let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "No, I really don't." They sat there in the darkness, two people who had spent years building walls around themselves, suddenly faced with the terrifying possibility of letting someone in. Ethan didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know if this was the beginning of something beautiful or the start of the biggest mistake of his life. But for the first time in a long time, he felt something other than exhaustion. He felt hope. Claire was the first to leave. She stood up slowly, as if testing whether her legs would hold her, and wrapped her arms around herself against the night air. "I need to think," she said. "Okay. I need to figure out what this means, if it means anything." "Take all the time you need." She looked down at him, and her expression was a mix of gratitude and terror. "Thank you. For listening. For not making this harder than it already is." "Claire?" "Yes?" "Whatever you decide, I meant what I said. You're not alone in this." Her eyes filled again, and she nodded quickly before turning and walking away. Ethan watched her disappear into the shadows, and then he sat there for another 20 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. By the time he got home, it was nearly midnight. He checked on Lily, fast asleep, her stuffed elephant clutched to her chest, and then collapsed onto the couch with his phone in his hand. He stared at Claire's name in his messages, wondering if he should text her, wondering if she'd even respond. He didn't. Some things needed space, but when his phone buzzed 10 minutes later, his heart leapt. "Claire Whitmore. I made it home safely. Thank you again." "Ethan. Anytime." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Claire Whitmore. I meant what I said too. About thinking about you." "Ethan. I know." Claire Whitmore. "This terrifies me." "Ethan. Me too." Claire Whitmore. "Good night, Ethan." "Ethan. Good night, Claire." He set the phone down and stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. He had no idea what he was doing. He had no idea if this was courage or stupidity, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He wasn't going to walk away. Dad. The next week was torture. Ethan went to work every day knowing Claire was somewhere in the same building, and the knowledge sat in his chest like electricity. They didn't speak beyond professional emails. They didn't pass each other in the hallways. It was as if they'd both silently agreed to create distance while they figured out what the hell they were doing. But Ethan felt her presence everywhere, in every meeting, in every report he filed, in every moment of silence when he should have been focused on spreadsheets but found himself thinking about the way she'd looked at him in the park. Lily noticed the difference immediately. "You're smiling more," she said one morning over breakfast. "Am I?" "Yeah, it's weird." Ethan laughed despite himself. "Weird good or weird bad?" "Weird good, I think." Lily tilted her head, studying him with the unsettling perception only 6-year-olds possessed.
Are you happy, Daddy? The question caught him off guard. I'm.
I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe. That's good. You should be happy. What about you? Are you happy? Yeah, she grinned, showing the gap where her front tooth used to be. Can we go back to the beach soon? Maybe this weekend. Can your friend come? Ethan's stomach flipped. Lily, I told you, she's not. I know. She's your boss, but she was nice, and she needs friends. What makes you think she needs friends? Lily shrugged. She looked lonely. Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought again. His daughter saw things he spent years learning to ignore. I'll think about it, he said, knowing full well he wouldn't invite Claire anywhere near his daughter again. Not until he understood what this thing between them actually was. But fate had other plans. That afternoon, Ethan was halfway through a conference call when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. This is Claire. I got your personal number from HR. I hope that's okay. Ethan's pulse spiked. He muted his microphone. Ethan, it's fine. What's wrong? Claire, nothing's wrong. I wanted to ask you something. Ethan, go ahead. Claire, would you have dinner with me, somewhere away from the office, somewhere we can talk without looking over our shoulders? Ethan stared at the message, his heart pounding. This was it, the line in the sand. Once he crossed it, there was no going back. Ethan, when? Claire, tonight. I know it's short notice, but I don't think I can wait any longer. Ethan, I need to find a sitter for Lily. Claire, take your time. I'll be ready whenever you are. Ethan's hands were shaking as he typed back. Ethan, 7 o'clock. Tell me where. Claire sent him an address, a small Italian place on the outskirts of town, far enough from the corporate district that they wouldn't run into anyone they knew. Ethan finished his call in a daze, then immediately texted his mother. Ethan, emergency. Can you watch Lily tonight? Mom, everything okay? Ethan, yeah, I just need a few hours. Mom, of course, honey. Drop her off whenever. Ethan exhaled. He had no idea what he was doing. He had no idea if this was the right choice, but he knew he had to go. The restaurant was tucked into a quiet corner of the old district, the kind of place that survived on word of mouth and generations of loyal customers. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early and sat in his car, trying to calm his nerves. He'd changed his shirt 3 times before leaving the house. He'd second-guessed himself at every red light, and now he was here, and there was no turning back. Claire was already inside when he walked in. She sat at a corner table, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, nothing like the sharp corporate armor she wore at work. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders, and she looked younger somehow, more approachable, more real. She stood when she saw him, and for a second, they just looked at each other. "Hi," she said. "Hi. Thank you for coming. Thank you for asking." They sat down, and the waiter appeared almost immediately to take drink orders. Ethan ordered water. Claire ordered wine. The silence between them felt both comfortable and charged, like a conversation waiting to happen. "I almost canceled 3 times," Claire admitted once the waiter left. "Me too." "What stopped you?" Ethan met her eyes. "I wanted to see you." Claire's breath caught, and she looked down at her hands. "I wanted to see you too. That's the problem." "Why is it a problem?" "Because I don't do this, Ethan. I don't get emotionally involved. I don't blur lines. I don't feel things." She looked up, and her eyes were glassy. "And then you handed me a towel and treated me like a human being, and suddenly I can't stop feeling everything." Ethan's chest tightened. "I know what you mean." "Do you?" "Yeah. I spent the last 2 years shutting down, focusing on Lily, convincing myself I didn't need anything else. And then I met you, and it's like something woke up that I'd forgotten existed." Claire closed her eyes. "This is terrifying." "I know. We could both get fired." "I know. And yet here we are. Here we are." The waiter returned with their drinks, and they ordered food without really looking at the menu. Once he left, Claire leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "I need to know something," she said. "If we do this, If we take this seriously, what does that look like? Because I can't just casually date my employee. That's not who I am. Then what do you want? I don't know. Claire's voice cracked. I don't know how to want things for myself anymore. I've spent so long being what everyone else needed me to be that I forgot how to ask for what I actually want. Then start small. What do you want right now, in this moment? Claire looked at him for a long time, her eyes searching his face. I want to be honest. I want to stop pretending I'm fine when I'm not. I want to sit across from someone who sees me and doesn't run away. I'm not running. Why not? Because I see you too. Ethan's voice was steady now. I see someone who's been carrying the weight of the world for so long, she forgot it's okay to put it down. I see someone who's brave and brilliant and so scared of being vulnerable that she'd rather be alone than risk getting hurt. And I see someone who deserves better than that. Claire's tears spilled over and she didn't bother wiping them away. You barely know me. I know enough. How can you be so sure? Because I recognize myself in you. I've been where you are, and I know what it's like to think you're too broken to be loved. I'm not broken. Neither am I. But we're both tired, and maybe that's enough of a reason to try. Claire pressed her hands to her face, her shoulders shaking. Ethan wanted to reach across the table and hold her, but he stayed still, giving her space to feel everything she'd been holding back. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Then we'll figure it out together. What if we fail? Then we fail. But at least we'll have tried. Claire lowered her hands and looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's worth it. How do you know? Because you're here. Because you asked me to dinner. Because you're scared out of your mind and you did it anyway. That's not nothing, Claire. That's everything. She let out a shaky breath and reached for her wine glass, taking a long sip. When she set it down, her hands were steadier. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay. Let's try. Ethan felt something shift inside him, something that had been locked away for years suddenly opening. Yeah? Yeah. Claire smiled through her tears. But we do this right. We talk to HR. We set boundaries. We don't let this destroy either of our careers. Agreed. And we take it slow. I need time to adjust to this. She gestured between them. As slow as you need. And your daughter. She's the priority. If this doesn't work for her, it doesn't work. Ethan's throat tightened. She already likes you. She met me once. That was enough. Claire's eyes softened. She's remarkable, Ethan. You've done an incredible job with her. She makes it easy. Still, not everyone could do what you're doing. Not everyone could do what you're doing either. Claire tilted her head. What am I doing? Being brave enough to want something for yourself. She looked at him for a long moment, and then she smiled. Real, genuine, unguarded. And Ethan thought it might be the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. The food arrived, and they ate slowly, conversation flowing easier now that the hardest words had been said. Claire talked about her childhood, middle-class family, strict parents, the pressure to succeed that had followed her into adulthood. Ethan talked about his marriage, the slow dissolution of something he'd thought would last forever, the moment he realized he'd rather be alone than pretend. They talked until the restaurant started emptying out, until the waiter had refilled their water glasses 3 times, until the candle on their table burned low. And when they finally walked out into the cool night air, Ethan felt lighter than he had in years. Claire stopped beside her car and turned to face him. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for asking. I meant what I said about doing this right. I know, so did I. She hesitated, then stepped closer. Can I hug you? Ethan's heart stuttered. Yeah. Claire wrapped her arms around him, and Ethan held her carefully like something precious and fragile. She smelled like lavender and wine, and she fit against him in a way that felt both foreign and familiar. This is real, isn't it? She whispered against his shoulder. Yeah, it's real. She pulled back just enough to look at him, and her eyes were bright with something that looked like hope. I'm terrified. Me too. Good. At least we're terrified together. Ethan laughed and Claire smiled, and for just a moment the fear didn't seem so overwhelming. Good night, Claire. Good night, Ethan. She got into her car and drove away, and Ethan stood there in the parking lot watching her taillights disappear into the night. He had no idea what came next. He had no idea if they could actually make this work. But for the first time in a long time, he wanted to try. The next morning, Ethan woke up to a text from Claire. Claire, I talked to HR this morning, confidentially. They said as long as we're not in the same reporting chain, it's not a conflict of interest. But I should probably transfer you to a different department just to be safe. Ethan, are you sure? I don't want to mess up your team. Claire, you're not messing up anything. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. Ethan stared at the message, his chest tight with emotion he couldn't quite name. Ethan, when? Claire, end of the week. I'll make it seamless. No one will question it. Ethan, thank you. Claire, don't thank me yet. We still have to figure out how to actually do this. Ethan, one step at a time. Claire, one step at a time. Ethan set his phone down and looked over at Lily, who was still asleep in her bed across the hall. He thought about the life he'd built for her, stable, predictable, safe. And then he thought about Claire and the possibility of something more. He didn't know if he could have both, but he was going to try, because for the first time in years, he believed he deserved to be happy. And so did she. The transfer happened faster than Ethan expected. By Wednesday afternoon, he'd been moved to the Analytics and Forecasting division under a manager named Derek Chen, a quiet man in his 50s who seemed more interested in data models than office politics. Derek shook Ethan's hand, showed him to his new desk, and said exactly 7 words during the entire orientation. Let me know if you need anything. It was perfect, anonymous, safe. But walking past Claire's office on the way to the break room felt like navigating a minefield. Every time he saw her through the glass walls, his pulse spiked. Every time their eyes met accidentally, the air between them crackled with something unspoken. They were being careful, professional. But the tension was there, humming beneath every polite nod and carefully worded email. On Thursday evening, Claire texted him. Claire, how's the new department? Ethan, quiet, which is probably a good thing. Claire, Derek treating you well? Ethan, he mostly leaves me alone. I think he's still trying to figure out why you sent him your best analyst. Claire, because I wanted to make sure you were in good hands. Ethan, or because you wanted to make sure we weren't breaking any rules. Claire, both can be true. Ethan smiled at his phone, then glanced over at Lily, who was sprawled on the living room floor working on a puzzle. She looked up and caught him smiling. Who are you texting? She asked. A friend. The lady from the beach? Ethan hesitated. He'd been dreading this conversation, but Lily had a way of sniffing out secrets like a bloodhound. Yeah. Her name is Claire. Are you going to see her again? Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Lily shrugged, fitting 2 puzzle pieces together with a satisfying click. I liked her. She didn't talk to me like I was a baby. She's a good listener. Is she your girlfriend? Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. It's complicated, sweetheart. That's what grown-ups say when the answer is yes, but they don't want to admit it. When did you get so smart? I was born smart. Lily grinned at him, then went back to her puzzle. Ethan looked down at his phone. Ethan, Lily just asked if you're my girlfriend. Claire, what did you tell her? Ethan, that it's complicated. Claire, is it? Ethan, I don't know, is it? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Claire, I'd like to see you this weekend, if you're free. Ethan, just me? Or me and Lily? Claire, both, if that's okay. I want to do this right, Ethan, and doing it right means getting to know the people who matter to you. Ethan's chest tightened. He read the message 3 times, trying to wrap his mind around what she was actually saying. Claire Whitmore, untouchable corporate executive, woman who intimidated boardrooms for breakfast, wanted to spend time with his 6-year-old daughter. Ethan, the beach? Claire, wherever you think is best. Ethan, Lily would love the beach, so would I. Claire, Saturday afternoon? Ethan, it's a date. He regretted the words the moment he hit send, but Claire's response came back almost immediately. Claire, yes, it is. Ethan set his phone down and stared at the ceiling, his heart racing. This was happening. This was actually happening. And the terrifying part was how much he wanted it to. "Daddy?" Lily's voice pulled him back to reality. "Yeah, sweetheart? Can we go to the beach this weekend?" Ethan laughed despite himself. "Actually, we can. Claire's going to come with us." Lily's whole face lit up. "Really?" "Really." "Yes." She jumped up and ran over to hug him, nearly knocking him off the couch. "This is going to be so fun." Ethan wrapped his arms around her and hoped to God he wasn't making a mistake. Saturday arrived with clear skies and a warmth that felt almost like summer trying to hold on before fall took over completely. Ethan packed the car with blankets, sunscreen, snacks, and the kind of nervous energy that made his hands shake every time he checked his phone. Claire had texted that morning saying she'd meet them there at 2, and now it was 1:45, and Ethan was starting to wonder if this was the worst idea he'd ever had. What if Lily didn't like her as much the second time? What if Claire realized that spending time with a hyperactive 6-year-old wasn't as charming as it seemed from a distance? What if this whole thing imploded before it even started? "You're doing it again," Lily said from the back seat. "Doing what?" "Worrying. Your face gets all scrunchy." Ethan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "I'm not worrying." "Yes, you are." "It's okay, Daddy. She already likes us." "How do you know?" "Because she's coming to the beach. Nobody goes to the beach with people they don't like." 6 years old, Ethan thought, and already wiser than half the adults he knew. They arrived at the parking lot, and Ethan spotted Claire's car immediately. She was leaning against it, dressed in white linen pants and a soft blue top that made her look like she'd stepped out of a completely different life. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, and she wore sunglasses that hid her eyes, but Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. She was nervous too. Lily bolted out of the car the moment Ethan put it in park. "Claire!" Claire turned, and even behind the sunglasses, Ethan could see her expression soften. She crouched down as Lily ran up, and for a second Ethan thought his daughter might actually tackle her, but Lily stopped just short and grinned. "You came!" "Of course I came. I promised, didn't I?" "Daddy was worried you wouldn't." Ethan groaned. "Lily." "It's okay," Claire said, standing up and pulling off her sunglasses. Her eyes found his, and there was something gentle in them. "I was worried too." "About what?" Lily asked. "That you might not want me here." "That's silly. We invited you." Claire smiled, and Ethan felt something in his chest loosen. "You're right. That was silly of me." They walked down to the beach together, Lily bouncing between them like a pinball, chattering about school and her new favorite book, and the loose tooth that refused to fall out no matter how much she wiggled it. Claire listened with the kind of focused attention most adults didn't bother giving children, asking questions and laughing at Lily's stories in all the right places. Ethan watched them together and felt something dangerous bloom in his chest. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of something he wasn't ready to name yet. They found a spot near the dunes and spread out the blanket. Lily immediately started digging in the sand, and Claire sat down beside Ethan, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Thank you for inviting me," she said quietly. "Thank you for coming. I meant what I said, about wanting to do this right. I know. And I know this is a lot for both of you, so if it ever feels like too much, you need to tell me." Ethan turned to look at her. "Are you trying to give me an out?" "I'm trying to make sure you don't feel trapped." "Claire, I asked you here because I wanted you here, not because I felt obligated, not because I'm trying to be polite. I wanted you here." Her eyes searched his face, and he saw the vulnerability beneath the careful control. "I'm not very good at this." "At what?" "Being casual, being part of someone's life without a clear role or title." "You don't need a title. You just need to be yourself." "What if myself isn't enough?" Ethan reached over and took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. It was the first time they'd touched since the hug in the parking lot, and the contact sent electricity up his arm. "It's enough." Claire looked down at their joined hands, and her breath hitched. "Ethan, look." Lily's voice cut through the moment. She was standing a few feet away, holding up a perfectly intact sand dollar. I found one. Claire pulled her hand back gently and turned toward Lily, her smile returning. That's beautiful, Lily. Those are supposed to be lucky. Really? Really, you should make a wish. Lily closed her eyes tight, clutching the sand dollar to her chest. Ethan watched her, his heart aching with how much he loved this kid. When she opened her eyes again, she was grinning. What did you wish for? Claire asked. I can't tell you, or it won't come true. Smart girl.
Lily ran back to her digging, and Claire turned to Ethan with a soft expression. She's incredible. She is. You must be so proud. Every single day. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Lily work on what was quickly becoming an elaborate sand metropolis. The sun was warm, the breeze was perfect, and for the first time in months, Ethan felt like he could actually breathe. Can I ask you something? Claire said after a while. Always. Do you ever regret it? The divorce? Ethan considered the question carefully. I regret that it happened. I regret that Lily had to go through it, but I don't regret where it brought me. Even with everything you've had to sacrifice? Sacrifice makes it sound like I gave up something I wanted. I didn't. I gave up something that was killing me. Claire nodded slowly. I understand that more than you know. Do you regret your choices, the career, the hours, all of it? I used to think I didn't.
I told myself it was worth it. The success, the recognition, the corner office. But lately, she trailed off, staring out at the water. Lately, I wonder what I gave up to get here, and if I can ever get it back. You can, Ethan said firmly. It's not too late, Claire. How do you know? Because you're here, right now, making a choice that has nothing to do with your career and everything to do with what you actually want. She looked at him, and her eyes were glassy. I want this. I want to be the kind of person who goes to the beach on a Saturday and builds sandcastles with a 6-year-old. I want to be someone who isn't defined by her job title. Then be that person. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I don't know who that person is anymore. Ethan shifted closer, his voice gentle. Then let's find out together. Claire closed her eyes, and a tear slipped down her cheek. Ethan reached up and brushed it away with his thumb, and she leaned into the touch like she was starving for it. I'm scared, she whispered. I know, so am I. What if I'm not good at this? What if I mess it up? Then we'll figure it out. That's what people do, Claire. They mess up, and they figure it out, and they keep trying. She opened her eyes and looked at him with an intensity that made his breath catch. Why are you so patient with me? Because you're worth it. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. Claire let out a shaky breath and looked away, but she didn't pull back from his touch. They sat like that for a long moment, the world narrowing down to just the two of them and the sound of waves and Lily's laughter in the distance. Claire? Lily's voice broke through again. Can you help me with the towers? They keep falling over. Claire wiped her eyes quickly and stood up, her professional mask sliding back into place. Of course. Let's see what we can do. Ethan watched them work together, Claire kneeling in the sand in her white linen pants without a second thought, Lily explaining her vision with the kind of seriousness only a child could muster, and something in his chest cracked open wider. This could work, he thought. This could actually work. What? They spent the next 2 hours building the most elaborate sandcastle Ethan had ever seen. Lily directed like a tiny construction foreman. Claire executed with the precision of someone who approached everything like a project, and Ethan provided structural support and occasional comic relief. By the time they finished, the sun was starting to sink lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. It's perfect, Lily declared, standing back to admire their work. It is, Claire agreed. We make a good team. The best team. Lily looked up at her. Can we take a picture? Claire hesitated, and Ethan saw the flicker of uncertainty cross her face, but then she smiled and nodded. Yeah, let's take a picture. Ethan pulled out his phone and framed the shot, Lily and Claire kneeling on either side of their sandcastle, both of them smiling, both of them covered in sand and completely unbothered by it. He took 3 photos, and in every single one, they looked like they belonged together. Can I see? Lily asked. Ethan showed her the screen, and she grinned. Send that to Claire. I will. He sent the photos to Claire's number, and a few seconds later, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out and looked at the image, and her expression softened in a way that made Ethan's heart ache. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For today. For letting me be part of this. You are part of this, Ethan said. If you want to be. Claire looked at him, and the vulnerability in her eyes was almost overwhelming. I do. I really do. Lily yawned suddenly, breaking the moment. I'm hungry. Ethan checked his watch. Yeah, we should probably head out. It's almost dinner time. They packed up their things slowly, none of them in a hurry to leave. As they walked back to the parking lot, Lily reached up and took Claire's hand without asking, swinging it between them like it was the most natural thing in the world. Claire looked down at their joined hands, then up at Ethan, and he saw tears threatening again. But she was smiling, really smiling. When they reached the cars, Lily hugged Claire goodbye with the kind of unself-conscious affection that only children could pull off. Will you come to the beach with us again? If your dad says it's okay. Lily turned to Ethan. It's okay, right, Daddy? Yeah, sweetheart. It's okay. Yay! Lily bounced over to their car, already chattering about what they'd build next time. Ethan turned to Claire, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Today was good. It was more than good, Claire said softly. It was everything. Claire, I know we're taking this slow. I know we're being careful. But I need you to know something. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I haven't felt this alive in years, and it scares the hell out of me, but I don't want to stop. Ethan's heart was pounding. Neither do I. So what do? We keep going, one day at a time, one beach trip at a time. Claire smiled, and it was the kind of smile that could break his heart and put it back together all at once. One day at a time. She reached up and touched his face just for a second, and then she stepped back. I should go. Okay. Text me when you get home? I will. She got into her car, and Ethan stood there watching her drive away, feeling like something fundamental had shifted. When he climbed into his own car, Lily was already buckled in, grinning at him in the rearview mirror. She's really nice, Daddy. Yeah, she is. I think she likes you. What makes you say that? The way she looks at you. It's the same way you look at her. Ethan's breath caught. And how do I look at her? Lily thought about it for a second. Like she's important. Out of the mouths of babes. She is important, sweetheart. I know. Lily smiled. That's good. You deserve someone important. Ethan pulled out of the parking lot, his vision blurring slightly with emotion he didn't bother trying to hide. His daughter was 6 years old, and she already understood things that had taken him decades to learn. When they got home, he tucked Lily into bed and kissed her forehead. I love you, kiddo. I love you too, Daddy. Can we invite Claire to my birthday party? Ethan's heart stuttered. Lily's birthday was 3 weeks away. Inviting Claire to that felt like crossing another line, making this thing between them undeniably real in front of friends and family. But when he looked at his daughter's hopeful face, he couldn't say no. If she wants to come, then yes. She'll want to come. I know she will. How do you know? Because she's part of our family now. Ethan's throat tightened. Lily, not like Mom, different, but still family. He didn't know what to say to that, so he just hugged her tighter and hoped he wasn't setting her up for heartbreak. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan texted Claire. Ethan, Lily wants to know if you'll come to her birthday party. Claire, when is it? Ethan, 3 weeks, October 14th. It's just going to be family and a few friends, nothing fancy. Claire, are you sure? That's a big step. Ethan, I'm sure. If you want to come. 3 dots appeared and stayed there for what felt like forever. Claire, I'd love to. Ethan stared at the message, his chest tight with something that felt dangerously close to joy. Ethan, fair warning, my mom will be there. And my ex-wife. Claire, are you trying to scare me off? Ethan, just being honest. Claire, I appreciate that, and I'm still coming. Ethan, you're brave. Claire, or insane. Haven't decided which yet. Ethan smiled at his phone. Ethan, thank you. For today. For everything. Claire. Thank you for letting me in. Ethan. Good night, Claire. Claire. Good night, Ethan. He set his phone down and lay back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, Claire would meet his mother, face his ex-wife, and step fully into his life in a way that couldn't be undone. And the terrifying part was how much he wanted that. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of texts, late-night phone calls, and stolen moments in coffee shops far from the office. They were careful, deliberate, but the connection between them grew stronger with every conversation, every shared story, every moment of vulnerability. Claire told him about her father, a man who'd measured success in dollars and corner offices, and how she'd spent her whole life trying to prove she was worthy of his approval. Ethan told her about the moment he'd realized his marriage was over, sitting in a marriage counselor's office while his wife checked her phone, and how he'd felt simultaneously devastated and relieved. They talked about their fears, about what happened if this didn't work, about what happened if it did. And through it all, Lily became their unexpected anchor. She asked about Claire constantly, drew her pictures, saved stories to tell her the next time they saw each other. And Claire, for all her uncertainty about relationships, responded to Lily with a tenderness that made Ethan fall a little bit harder every time he saw it. But reality had a way of intruding. The Friday before Lily's birthday party, Ethan's ex-wife called. "We need to talk," Michelle said without preamble. Ethan's stomach dropped. "About what?" "About this woman you're seeing." "How do you, Lily told me. Apparently she's coming to the birthday party." Ethan closed his eyes. Of course Lily had mentioned it. She was 6. She didn't understand the politics of co-parenting or the minefield of ex-spouse jealousy. "Her name is Claire," Ethan said carefully. "And yes, she's coming to the party." "Don't you think you should have run that by me first?" "Why? You bring Greg to everything. That's different." "How?" "Because Greg is my husband. This woman is..." "What, exactly? Your boss? Some random person you picked up at the beach?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "She's someone I care about, someone Lily likes, and someone who's going to be part of our lives whether you approve or not." "Our lives?" "She's part of your life, Ethan, not mine, not Lily's." "Lily's the one who invited her." Michelle was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was tight. "I just don't want Lily getting attached to someone who might not stick around." "Like you did?" The words were out before Ethan could stop them, and he immediately regretted them. Not because they weren't true, but because he didn't want to fight. Not now. Not over this. Michelle's breath hitched. "That's not fair." "You're right. I'm sorry. That was out of line." "I'm just trying to protect our daughter." "So am I. And part of protecting her is showing her what healthy relationships look like. What it looks like when two people choose each other instead of just going through the motions." Michelle was quiet again, then softer. "Are you happy?" The question caught Ethan off guard. "What?" "With this woman. With Claire. Are you happy?" Ethan thought about the beach, about Claire kneeling in the sand building castles, about the way she looked at him like he mattered. "Yeah, I think I am." "Then I guess I can't argue with that." Michelle sighed. "Just be careful, okay? For Lily's sake." "I will. I promise." They hung up, and Ethan sat there for a long time, his phone in his hand. He knew Michelle was right to be cautious. He knew that bringing someone new into Lily's life was a risk. But he also knew that hiding, staying safe, protecting himself from potential pain, that wasn't living. That was just surviving. And he was done just surviving. He texted Claire that night after Lily was asleep, his fingers hovering over the keyboard for a long moment before he finally typed the words. "Ethan, Michelle called. She knows about you." The response came almost immediately. "Claire, how did she react?" "Ethan, better than I expected, but she's worried about Lily getting attached." "Claire, that's fair." "Ethan, is it? You're already attached. So is Lily. So am I." 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before Claire's response finally came through. "Claire, I'm terrified of letting her down. Both of them. All of you. Ethan. You won't. Claire. You can't know that. Ethan. I know you. I know you don't do anything halfway. If you're in this, you're in it completely. Claire. That's what scares me. What if completely isn't enough? Ethan. Then we figure it out, like we've been doing, one day at a time. Claire. You make it sound simple. Ethan. It's not simple, but it's worth it. There was a longer pause this time, and Ethan could almost feel Claire's internal struggle through the screen. When her message finally came, it was just 2 words. Claire. I'm in. Ethan's chest tightened, and he found himself smiling at his phone like a teenager. He typed back quickly. Ethan. Saturday, 2 p.m. My mom's house. Fair warning, she's going to interrogate you. Claire. I can handle interrogation. I've survived boardroom acquisitions. Ethan. This is different. This is a grandmother protecting her granddaughter. Claire. Then I'll bring my best game. Ethan. You don't need a game, just be yourself. Claire. What if myself isn't good enough? Ethan. It will be. Trust me. He could almost see her sitting in her apartment, phone in hand, trying to believe him. He wished he could reach through the screen and hold her, tell her in person that she didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be real. Claire. What should I bring? For Lily? Ethan. You don't have to bring anything. Claire. I want to, please. Ethan. She's been obsessed with art supplies lately. Anything creative. Claire. I can work with that. Ethan. Claire? Claire. Yes? Ethan. Thank you for doing this. I know it's not easy. Claire. Nothing worth having ever is. Ethan set his phone down and stared at the ceiling, his heart full of something he hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, not just possibility, but genuine, terrifying, exhilarating belief that this could actually work. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of chaotic energy that only a 6-year-old's birthday could generate. Lily was up at dawn, bouncing around the house in her new purple dress, asking every 5 minutes when the party was starting and when Claire was coming, and could she please open just one present early. No, Ethan said for the 7th time, trying to wrestle a bow onto a stubborn gift bag. You have to wait until everyone gets there. But Daddy, no buts, go brush your teeth. Lily stomped off dramatically, and Ethan allowed himself a moment to breathe. His mother had offered to host the party at her house, which meant a bigger backyard, better food, and the inevitable commentary about his life choices. She'd been supportive when he told her about Claire, but supportive in that carefully neutral way that mothers had when they were reserving judgment. Just bring her by, his mom had said on the phone. Let me meet this woman who's got my son smiling again. I smile. Not like this, you don't. And she was right. Ethan couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this light, this hopeful, this genuinely excited about the future, instead of just grimly determined to survive it. They arrived at his mother's house an hour before the party was supposed to start. Patricia Parker was already in full hostess mode, arranging food on the dining room table and barking orders at Ethan's younger sister Emma, who'd flown in from Seattle for the weekend. There's my birthday girl. Patricia scooped Lily up in a hug that lifted her completely off the ground. 7 years old. When did you get so grown up? I'm only 6, Grandma, Lily giggled. My birthday is today. Well, that's practically 7. Patricia set her down and turned to Ethan. You look nervous. I'm not nervous. Yes, you are. Your eye does that twitchy thing when you're nervous. Emma appeared from the kitchen, grinning. He's nervous because his fancy executive girlfriend is coming, and he wants us to like her. She's not... Ethan stopped himself. Was Claire his girlfriend? They hadn't actually defined it. They'd just been existing together, moving forward, figuring it out. She's important, he said finally. That's all. Important enough to bring to Lily's birthday party, Patricia observed. That's saying something. She wanted to come, Mom. Lily invited her. And you said yes, which means you're serious about this. Ethan met his mother's eyes and saw the question beneath the observation. Are you sure about this? Are you protecting yourself? Are you protecting my granddaughter? I'm sure, he said quietly. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated, but I'm sure. Patricia studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Then I'll reserve judgment until I meet her. That's all I ask. Emma nudged him with her elbow.
For what it's worth, I think it's great. You deserve to be happy, big brother.
Thanks, Em.
Although if she breaks your heart, I will personally destroy her career via a very strategic LinkedIn campaign. Noted. The doorbell rang, and Ethan's stomach dropped. It was too early to be guests. Unless... I'll get it, Lily shrieked, already racing toward the door. Ethan followed, his heart pounding. Through the frosted glass, he could see a familiar silhouette. And when Lily threw the door open, there was Claire. She looked beautiful and terrified in equal measure. She'd dressed carefully. Navy blue dress that was elegant without being too formal, hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. Professional enough to show respect, casual enough to fit in. She held a wrapped present in one hand and a bottle of wine in the other, and when her eyes met Ethan's over Lily's head, he saw the vulnerability there. Claire. Lily launched herself forward, and Claire barely had time to set the presents down before catching her in a hug. Happy birthday, sweetheart, Claire said, her voice warm despite the tension Ethan could see in her shoulders. You came early. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Lily grabbed her hand and dragged her inside, chattering a mile a minute about the decorations and the cake and all the friends who were coming. Claire let herself be pulled along, and when she passed Ethan, she gave him a look that was equal parts terror and determination. He mouthed, "You've got this," and she gave him the smallest smile before Lily led her into the living room where Patricia and Emma were waiting. Ethan watched from the doorway as his mother stood up, her expression carefully neutral. Claire extended her hand. Mrs. Parker, I'm Claire Whitmore. Thank you for having me. Patricia took her hand, her grip firm. Call me Patricia, and you're welcome. Any friend of Lily's is welcome here. The emphasis on friend wasn't lost on anyone, but Claire didn't flinch. I brought wine. I wasn't sure what you'd be serving, so I hedged my bets with a Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir. That'll go nicely with the roast. Patricia took the bottle and examined the label, her eyebrows rising slightly. This is excellent. You have good taste. I've had a lot of practice impressing people. Claire's smile was self-deprecating. Occupational hazard. Emma stepped forward, extending her hand. I'm Emma, Ethan's sister. I've heard absolutely nothing about you, which means my brother is being weirdly secretive. That's because it's new, Ethan interjected, finally stepping into the room. We're still figuring things out. Well, you must be doing something right if Lily invited you to her birthday party. Emma grinned at Claire. She doesn't invite just anyone, you know. Last year, she explicitly disinvited our cousin Marcus because he ate all the cake at Christmas. He did eat all the cake, Lily confirmed solemnly. Claire laughed, and some of the tension in her shoulders eased. Then I'm honored to make the guest list. Can I open your present now? Lily asked, eyeing the wrapped box Claire had set on the table. Lily, Ethan warned. After the party, Claire said gently, but I promise it's worth the wait. Is it art stuff? Maybe. Daddy told you. He might have mentioned you liked being creative. Lily beamed, and Patricia caught Ethan's eye with an expression he couldn't quite read. Approval? Caution? Both? The doorbell rang again, and this time it was actual guests, a couple of Lily's friends from school and their parents, followed by Ethan's uncle and his family, and then more kids, more noise, more chaos. The house filled with laughter and shouting and the particular kind of joyful mayhem that only children's birthday parties could generate. Through it all, Ethan watched Claire. She didn't hover or retreat. She helped set up games, handed out juice boxes, and somehow ended up organizing an impromptu craft station with supplies she'd apparently brought in her car. Kids gravitated toward her, and she treated each one with the same focused attention she'd given Lily at the beach. She's good with them, Patricia said quietly, appearing at Ethan's elbow. Yeah, she is. Surprising for someone who doesn't have kids of her own. I think she's surprising herself too. Patricia watched Claire for a moment longer, then turned to him. She's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know, someone harder, maybe, more corporate. But she looks at you like you hung the moon, and she looks at Lily like she's precious. That tells me more than any resume ever could. Ethan's throat tightened. I really care about her, Mom. I can see that. Just promise me you're being careful, for Lily's sake. I promise.
Patricia nodded and squeezed his arm before heading back to the kitchen. Ethan took a breath and was about to join Claire at the craft table when the doorbell rang one more time. He knew who it was before he opened the door. Michelle stood on the porch with her husband Greg and a brightly wrapped present. She'd dressed nicely, more nicely than she usually did for kid parties, and Ethan realized with a sinking feeling that she was making a statement. This was her territory too, her daughter, her family. "Hey," he said, stepping aside to let them in. "Hey." Michelle's eyes immediately scanned the room, looking for something, or someone. Lily saw her and came running. "Mommy!" Michelle caught her in a hug, holding on just a beat too long. "Happy birthday, baby. Are you having fun?" "The best time. Claire brought art stuff, and we're making crowns." Michelle's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "That's wonderful. Where is Claire?" Lily pointed toward the dining room where Claire was helping a little boy glue sequins onto construction paper. Michelle's eyes landed on her, and Ethan saw the moment of assessment, the quick calculation of threat level. "She's pretty," Michelle said quietly, so only Ethan could hear. "Michelle, it's fine. I'm fine." But her voice was strained. "I'm going to go say hello." "You don't have to." But Michelle was already walking over, Greg trailing behind her, looking vaguely uncomfortable. Ethan followed, his stomach churning. Claire looked up as Michelle approached, and Ethan saw her entire body tense, but she stood up smoothly, her professional mask sliding into place, and extended her hand. "You must be Michelle. I'm Claire." Michelle took her hand, her grip firm. "I've heard a lot about you, from Lily. I hope good things." "Very good things. She seems quite taken with you." "The feeling is mutual. Your daughter is remarkable." The words were polite, appropriate, but Ethan could feel the undercurrent of tension between the two women. They were sizing each other up, establishing territory, figuring out where the boundaries were. "Thank you," Michelle said. "Ethan and I have worked hard to raise her right." The emphasis on Ethan and I was subtle but deliberate, and Claire caught it. Her smile didn't falter, but Ethan saw something flicker in her eyes. "It shows," Claire said evenly. "You should be very proud." Michelle opened her mouth to respond, but Lily interrupted, tugging on Claire's sleeve. "Can you help me with the glitter? I can't get it to stick." "Of course." Claire turned back to the table, and Michelle watched her for a moment longer before moving away to talk to Patricia. Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Greg clapped him on the shoulder. "That was awkward," Greg said. "Yeah. For what it's worth, she seems nice. Claire, I mean." "She is." "Michelle will come around. She just needs time." Ethan nodded, but he wasn't so sure. He knew Michelle well enough to recognize the look in her eyes. It wasn't jealousy exactly. It was something more complicated. Fear, maybe. Fear that someone else was stepping into a role that used to be hers, even if she'd been the one to walk away from it. The party continued, and Ethan did his best to be present, to focus on Lily's joy instead of the complicated adult dynamics swirling beneath the surface. They sang happy birthday, cut the cake, and watched Lily tear through her presents with the kind of unbridled enthusiasm only children could manage. When she got to Claire's present, she gasped. It was a complete art set, professional grade-colored pencils, watercolors, sketch pads, brushes, pastels, everything a budding artist could want, all organized in a beautiful wooden case with Lily's name engraved on a small brass plate. "This is amazing." Lily threw her arms around Claire's neck. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Hugged her back, and Ethan saw her eyes glisten. "You're very welcome. I can't wait to see what you create. I'm going to make you something right now." "You should enjoy your party first." But Lily was already pulling out the colored pencils, settling on the floor with a sketch pad. Claire knelt beside her, and Ethan watched them together, his chest aching with emotion he couldn't quite name. Michelle saw it too. He caught her watching from across the room, her expression unreadable. Then she turned away, busying herself with cleaning up wrapping paper, and Ethan felt the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on him. The party wound down gradually, families trickling out with sleepy kids and leftover cake. Patricia insisted on packing up food for Ethan to take home. Emma hugged him and whispered that she approved of Claire, and Michelle left with barely a goodbye, taking Greg and a confused Lily with her for their scheduled weekend together. "I'll bring her back Sunday evening," Michelle said at the door. "Okay. And Ethan, we should talk soon about all of this." "I know." She nodded and left, and Ethan stood in the doorway watching her car disappear down the street. When he turned back inside, Claire was helping Patricia load the dishwasher, the two of them working in comfortable silence. "You don't have to do that," Patricia said. "I want to help. It's the least I can do after such a lovely party." "It was lovely, wasn't it? Lily seemed so happy." "She did." Patricia handed Claire a plate to rinse, then turned to face her directly. "Can I ask you something?" Claire's hand stilled. "Of course. What are your intentions with my son?" The question hung in the air, blunt and unapologetic. Claire set down the plate carefully and met Patricia's eyes. "I care about him," she said. "More than I thought I was capable of caring about anyone. And I care about Lily. I know this is complicated. I know I'm coming into their lives at a difficult time. But my intentions are to be honest, to be present, and to not hurt them. That's all I can promise." Patricia studied her for a long moment, and Ethan held his breath from where he stood in the doorway, unnoticed. "He's been hurt before," Patricia said quietly. "And he spent the last 2 years putting himself back together piece by piece. If you're not serious about this, if there's any part of you that's unsure, you need to walk away now, before Lily gets any more attached, before he does." "I understand." "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're a successful executive with a demanding career and no experience with children or family life. What happens when work gets busy? When the novelty wears off? When you realize that being with Ethan means being with Lily, and that's not something you can compartmentalize?" Claire's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed steady. "You're right. I don't have experience with any of this. I've spent my entire adult life avoiding exactly this kind of commitment. But I'm here anyway. I'm terrified, and I'm probably going to make mistakes, but I'm here because I can't imagine not being here. That has to count for something." Patricia's expression softened slightly. "It does, but wanting something and being ready for it aren't always the same thing." "I know. That's why I'm taking this seriously. That's why I transferred Ethan to a different department. That's why I'm here today, meeting his family and his ex-wife, and putting myself in the middle of all the complicated parts instead of just enjoying the easy moments. Because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right." Patricia looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Just know that if you hurt my son or my granddaughter, you'll have me to answer to, and I don't care how many boardrooms you've conquered." Claire smiled faintly. "Understood." "Good." Patricia handed her another plate. "Now, finish helping me with these dishes before Ethan thinks we're in here plotting against him." "We can hear you," Ethan called from the doorway. Both women turned, and Patricia had the grace to look slightly sheepish. "How long have you been standing there?" "Long enough." Ethan walked over to Claire and took her hand. "And for the record, Mom, Claire's not going anywhere. Neither am I." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Bold statement." "True statement. We'll see." But she smiled as she said it, and Ethan knew he'd been given his mother's cautious blessing. Emma poked her head into the kitchen. "I'm heading to the airport. Walk me out?" Ethan squeezed Claire's hand and followed his sister outside. Emma waited until they were on the porch before turning to him. "She's good for you," she said without preamble. "Yeah? Yeah, I haven't seen you this alive in years. Not since before the divorce. It's still early." "So what? Early doesn't mean wrong, and the way she looks at you, the way she is with Lily, that's not someone just going through the motions." Ethan's throat tightened. "Michelle doesn't think so." "Michelle is scared. She walked away from you, and now she has to watch someone else appreciate what she gave up. That's on her, not you." "I don't want to hurt her." "You're not responsible for her feelings anymore. You're responsible for your own, and for Lily's. And if Claire makes you both happy, then that's what matters." Emma hugged him tight, and Ethan held on, grateful for a sister who always seemed to know exactly what to say. "Thanks, Em. Anytime. Now go back in there and appreciate that woman before she realizes she can do better." Ethan laughed despite himself. Not helping. Sure I am. She grinned and headed to her rental car, waving as she pulled away. When Ethan went back inside, Claire was sitting on the couch looking exhausted and relieved in equal measure. He sat down beside her, and she immediately leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. I survived, she said. You did more than survive. You were amazing. Your mother terrifies me. She terrifies everyone. That means she respects you. Is that how that works? With her, yeah. Claire was quiet for a moment, then lifted her head to look at him. Michelle hates me. She doesn't hate you, she's just adjusting. She looked at me like I was stealing something that belonged to her. You're not. She gave that up a long time ago. But Lily didn't, and I'm terrified of getting in the way of that. Ethan turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. You're not getting in the way. You're adding to it. There's a difference. What if Lily has to choose? She won't. Kids don't love in finite amounts, Claire. They just expand to include more people. And right now, she's expanding to include you. That's a good thing. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to be good at this. Nobody does. We're all just making it up as we go along. You make it look easy. It's not. I'm terrified too. Every single day I'm terrified I'm going to mess up, say the wrong thing, make the wrong choice. But I show up anyway. That's all any of us can do. Claire closed her eyes, and tears slipped down her cheeks. Ethan wiped them away gently. I love you, she whispered. The words hung in the air between them, fragile and powerful and completely unexpected. Ethan's breath caught. What? I love you. Claire opened her eyes, and they were clear despite the tears. I know it's too soon, I know it's terrifying, but it's true, and I needed to say it. Ethan's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might break through his chest. He'd been holding back the same words for weeks, telling himself it was too fast, too risky, too much. But looking at Claire now, vulnerable and brave and completely honest, he knew he couldn't hold back anymore. I love you too, he said. Claire let out a sob laugh and kissed him, and Ethan kissed her back, pouring every ounce of emotion he'd been holding on to into that single moment. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were crying and laughing and clinging to each other like lifelines. This is insane, Claire said. Completely. We're going to have to figure out so many things. I know. What we tell people at work, how we blend our lives, what happens with Lily and Michelle and all of it. One day at a time, remember? Claire nodded, wiping her eyes. One day at a time. They sat together in the quiet of Patricia's living room, holding each other, and Ethan felt something settle in his chest. Peace, maybe. Or just the knowledge that whatever came next, they'd face it together. Patricia appeared in the doorway, took one look at them, and smiled knowingly. I'm going to bed, she announced. Lock up when you leave. Thanks, Mom. And Claire? Claire looked up. Yes? Welcome to the family, officially. Claire's breath caught at Patricia's words, and Ethan felt her grip tighten on his hand. They sat there in the quiet aftermath of everything that had just been said, everything that had shifted into place, and Ethan realized that this was what he'd been missing for years. Not just love, but belonging. Not just connection, but home. Patricia disappeared down the hallway, and they heard her bedroom door close softly. Claire turned to Ethan, her eyes still glassy with tears. Did that just happen? She whispered. Yeah, it did. Your mother just welcomed me to the family. She doesn't say things she doesn't mean. Claire let out a shaky laugh. I came here today thinking I'd be lucky to survive the interrogation. I didn't expect this. What did you expect? Judgment, suspicion, maybe polite tolerance at best. She looked down at their joined hands. I didn't expect to feel like I might actually belong here. You do belong here. Ethan lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. You've belonged here since the moment you knelt in the sand and helped Lily build a castle. That feels like a lifetime ago. It was 8 weeks ago. Only 8 weeks? Claire's eyes widened. We've only known each other for 8 weeks? Technically 9 if you count the beach incident. The beach incident, Claire repeated. And then she was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laughter that came from exhaustion and relief and the sheer absurdity of how much could change in such a short time. I had a wardrobe malfunction and accidentally fell in love. That's going to be a great story for the grandkids. Ethan's heart stuttered. Grandkids? Claire froze, her laughter dying. I wasn't trying to. Oh God, I'm sorry, that was too much. Claire. Ethan cupped her face in his hands. Breathe. She took a shaky breath, her eyes searching his. I'm terrified I'm going to scare you away. You're not going to scare me away. I just talked about grandkids. We've been dating for 8 weeks, and I'm already planning decades ahead. That's insane. Maybe. Or maybe it's honest. Ethan brushed his thumb across her cheek. I'm not scared of your honesty, Claire. I'm not scared of you wanting a future. I'm scared of losing this. Of losing you. You're not going to lose me. Promise? I promise. She kissed him softly. I'm in this, Ethan. Completely. Even when it's terrifying. Even when I have no idea what I'm doing. They stayed at Patricia's house for another hour, talking quietly about everything and nothing, making plans and then laughing at how impossible it seemed to plan anything when their lives felt like they were moving at light speed. Finally, reluctantly, they locked up and headed to their separate cars. Text me when you get home, Ethan said. Always. Claire kissed him one more time, then got into her car and drove away. Ethan sat in his own car for a long moment, his phone in his hand, staring at the screen. Then he pulled up Michelle's number and typed out a message before he could second-guess himself. Ethan, we need to talk. Are you free for coffee tomorrow morning before you bring Lily back? The response came faster than he expected. Michelle, I was going to say the same thing. Yes, 9 a.m. at the usual place. Ethan, see you then. He drove home in a daze, his mind already racing through the conversation he needed to have. He knew Michelle deserved honesty. She deserved to know that this thing with Claire wasn't casual, wasn't temporary, wasn't going away. And more than that, she deserved to know that he was happy, that he'd found something real, and that it didn't diminish what they'd had or threaten her relationship with Lily. At least, he hoped she'd see it that way. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Ethan arrived the next morning. Michelle was already there, sitting at their usual corner table with 2 cups in front of her. She'd ordered for him. Black coffee, no sugar. She still remembered. Hey, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. Hey. Michelle pushed one of the cups toward him. Thanks for meeting me. Thanks for coming. They sat in awkward silence for a moment, both of them nursing their coffee, neither quite sure how to start. Finally, Michelle set her cup down and looked at him directly. I owe you an apology, she said. Ethan blinked. What? For yesterday, for how I acted at the party. I was territorial, and that wasn't fair. Michelle, let me finish. She took a breath. I walked away from our marriage because I wasn't happy, because I wanted something different, and you let me go. You didn't fight it. You didn't make it ugly. You just let me go. And I've spent the last 2 years telling myself that was the right choice, that we were both better off. We are better off. I do know that. But seeing you yesterday with Claire, seeing how you looked at her, how Lily looked at her, Michelle's voice cracked. It made me realize what I gave up. Not you specifically, but the possibility of that, of being someone's whole world. Ethan's chest tightened. Greg is wonderful. I love him. But it's different. It's comfortable and stable and safe. What you have with Claire, that's not safe. That's terrifying and messy and all-consuming. And I used to have that with you before we killed it. We both killed it, Ethan said gently. It wasn't just you. Maybe. But I'm the one who left. And yesterday I had to watch someone else get the version of you that I threw away. She wiped her eyes quickly. I'm not saying I want you back. I don't. Greg and I are good. But I needed to say this. I needed to tell you that I'm sorry for how I acted and that I'm happy for you. Really happy. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. Thank you. That means a lot.
She's good with Lily. She is. And Lily loves her. I can see it. The way she talks about her, the way she lit up when Claire gave her that art set. Michelle smiled despite her tears. You found someone good, Ethan. Don't screw it up. I'm trying not to. Is it serious? Yeah, it's serious, yeah. Michelle nodded slowly. Then I need to know something. What does this mean for Lily? For custody? For our arrangement? Nothing changes, Ethan said firmly. You're still her mother. We're still co-parenting. Claire isn't trying to replace you or push you out. She's just adding to Lily's life, not subtracting from yours. You're sure about that? I'm positive. And Claire knows it too. She's been terrified of getting in the way of your relationship with Lily. Really? Really. She asked me yesterday what happens if Lily has to choose. I told her Lily won't have to choose, because there's room for all of us. Michelle's eyes filled again. You always were better at this than me. The whole mature co-parenting thing. I've had a lot of practice letting go of resentment. It's exhausting to stay angry. I don't deserve your kindness. Maybe not. But I'm giving it to you anyway, because Lily deserves parents who can be in the same room without tension, and because holding on to the past doesn't serve anyone. Michelle squeezed his hand, then let go. Thank you for being you, for making this easier than it should be. Thank you for being honest, and for being happy for me. That's not nothing. They finished their coffee talking about logistics and schedules and Lily's upcoming school events, the conversation easier now that the hard things had been said. When they stood to leave, Michelle hugged him, and Ethan hugged her back. Take care of yourself, Ethan. You too, Michelle. She left first, and Ethan sat back down, pulling out his phone. Ethan. Just had coffee with Michelle. It went better than I expected. Claire. Really? What did she say? Ethan. That she's happy for us, and that I shouldn't screw this up. Claire. Smart woman. Ethan. I'm not planning to screw this up. Claire. Good. Because I'm not planning to let you. Ethan smiled at his phone, then headed home to clean up before Michelle brought Lily back. When they arrived an hour later, Lily ran inside and immediately started pulling out her new art supplies. Can I call Claire and show her what I made? She asked. Ethan glanced at Michelle, who nodded. Sure, sweetheart. Go ahead. Lily FaceTimed Claire, and Ethan watched from the doorway as his daughter proudly displayed a colored pencil drawing of the three of them at the beach. Claire's face on the screen was soft and warm, and she praised every detail with genuine enthusiasm. I love it, Lily. You're so talented. Can you come over for dinner this week? Claire's eyes flicked to Ethan, questioning. He nodded. I'd love to, Claire said. Let me check my schedule and talk to your dad, okay? Okay, love you, Claire. The words were so natural, so easy, that it took a moment for their weight to register. Lily had just told Claire she loved her, casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Claire's breath caught audibly, and Ethan saw tears spring to her eyes. I love you too, sweetheart. Lily grinned and ended the call, already moving on to her next project. But Ethan stood frozen, his heart in his throat. Michelle appeared beside him, having witnessed the whole exchange. That was fast, she said quietly. Yeah. But it's real, isn't it? What Lily feels for her? Yeah, it is. Michelle was silent for a moment. Then I guess I better get used to her being around. Michelle. It's okay, Ethan. Really. If Lily loves her, then she must be worth loving. She picked up her purse. I'll see you next weekend. After she left, Ethan called Claire back. Did that just happen? Claire asked immediately. Yeah. Lily just told you she loves you. I wasn't expecting that. Neither was I. Ethan, Her voice broke. I've never had someone love me that unconditionally before. Not even my own parents. Well, you do now, and not just Lily. Claire's face crumpled, and she pressed her hand to her mouth. How did this happen? How did I go from being completely alone to having a family in 8 weeks? 9 weeks, Ethan corrected. And I don't know, but I'm grateful for it every single day. Me too, God. Me too. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm that felt both natural and surreal.
Claire came to dinner twice a week, always bringing something: flowers, wine, art supplies for Lily. She and Ethan were careful at work, maintaining professional distance, but everyone knew anyway. Derek had figured it out within a week, and the rest of the office followed shortly after. There were whispers, sure, but no one challenged it. Claire had made sure every rule was followed, every protocol observed. On a Thursday evening in early November, Ethan was making dinner while Lily did homework at the kitchen table and Claire sat beside her, helping with math problems. It was so domestic, so ordinary, that Ethan had to stop and just watch them for a moment. "Daddy's doing it again," Lily announced without looking up. "Doing what?" Claire asked. "Staring at us with his sappy face." Claire looked up and caught Ethan's eye, smiling. "Is that true? Do you have a sappy face?" "Apparently." "I like your sappy face." "Me too," Lily chimed in. "It means you're happy." Later, after Lily was in bed, Claire and Ethan sat on the couch with glasses of wine, her feet in his lap. "I have something to tell you," Claire said. Ethan's stomach clenched. "Okay." "I talked to my therapist about us, about everything that's happened. And she asked me what I was afraid of. So I told her I was afraid of failing, afraid of not being good enough, afraid of hurting you and Lily." Claire took a sip of wine. "And then she asked me what I was hoping for." "What did you say?" "I said I was hoping to build something real, something that lasts, a life that's bigger than just my career." Claire set down her glass and turned to face him. "I've been thinking about that a lot, about what I actually want my life to look like. And I want this. I want you and Lily and Sunday mornings making pancakes and helping with homework and all the ordinary, beautiful, terrifying parts of having a family." Her eyes were bright with tears. "I want to stop being the person who works 80 hours a week because she has nothing else. I want to be the person who leaves work at 5 because she has people waiting for her at home." Ethan's throat was tight. "Claire, I'm not saying I'm going to quit my job or anything dramatic like that, but I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to prioritize differently, because this matters more than any corner office or title ever could." Ethan set down his own glass and pulled her into his lap, holding her close. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. It's not going to be easy. Having a family, blending our lives, it's messy and complicated and sometimes really hard. I know, but I want it anyway. I want the mess. I want the complications. I want all of it." She pulled back to look at him. "I want you." Ethan kissed her, pouring everything he felt into it: gratitude, love, hope, fear, all of it tangled together in a way that felt impossibly right. "Move in with us," he said when they finally broke apart. Claire's eyes widened. "What?" "Move in with us. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, when you're ready, because I don't want to keep saying goodbye at the end of the night. I want to wake up next to you. I want you here, in our lives, completely." "Ethan, that's a huge step." "I know, but we've already taken it, haven't we? You're already here. You're already part of this family. I'm just asking you to make it official." Claire's tears spilled over. "Yes." "Yes?" "Yes. I want that. I want all of it." She laughed through her tears. "I can't believe I'm saying yes to moving in with someone I met 9 weeks ago. Technically, it'll be a few months from now. You said when you're ready." "I'm ready now. I've been ready since the moment Lily told me she loved me, and I realized I'd found something I didn't even know I was looking for." They sat there holding each other, and Ethan felt the last piece of something click into place. This was it. This was the life he was supposed to be living, not the one he'd planned or the one he thought he wanted, but the one he'd accidentally stumbled into on a windy beach with a woman who'd lost her cover-up and found her heart. 3 months later, on a cold Saturday morning in February, Ethan woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of laughter from the kitchen. He padded downstairs to find Claire and Lily making pancakes, both of them covered in flour, music playing from Claire's phone. "Morning, sleepyhead," Claire said, kissing him. "Morning. What's all this?" "We're making heart-shaped pancakes because Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and Lily wanted to practice." "They're not very good," Lily admitted, pointing at a lopsided blob on the griddle. "That one looks like a potato." I think it looks distinguished, Claire said seriously. Potatoes can be distinguished, Lily agreed. Ethan poured himself coffee and leaned against the counter, watching them work together with the easy familiarity of people who'd done this 100 times before. Claire had moved in just after Christmas, and the transition had been smoother than anyone expected. She'd downsized from her penthouse to their modest house without complaint, filling the spare closet with her clothes and the bathroom with her products. She'd learned Lily's routines, her preferences, her moods. She'd become part of their life so seamlessly that Ethan sometimes forgot she hadn't always been there. "What are you thinking about?" Claire asked, catching him watching. "How lucky I am." "Sappy face again," Lily announced. "Definitely sappy face," Claire agreed, smiling at him over Lily's head. Later that afternoon, they drove to the beach. It was cold, too cold for swimming, but perfect for walking. They bundled up in jackets and scarves and wandered down to the spot where everything had started. "I can't believe it's only been 6 months," Claire said, staring out at the water. "Best 6 months of my life," Ethan said. "Mine too." Lily ran ahead, looking for shells, and Claire leaned into Ethan's side. He wrapped his arm around her and pulled her close. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." "No, I mean..." She turned to face him. "I really love you, in a way I didn't know I was capable of. You and Lily, you've given me something I never thought I'd have, a real family, a real life, and I don't know how to thank you for that." "You don't have to thank me. You gave us the same thing." "Did I?" "Yeah. You showed me that it's possible to start over, to let someone in, to build something new that's even better than what came before." He kissed her forehead. "You saved me, Claire. Both of us." She closed her eyes, tears leaking out. "We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." Lily came running back, holding a perfect sand dollar. "Look, another lucky one." "Make a wish," Claire said. Lily closed her eyes tight, and Ethan watched her, his heart full to bursting. When she opened them, she was grinning. "What did you wish for?" Claire asked. "That we could stay like this forever." Ethan and Claire exchanged a look, and he saw his own emotions reflected in her eyes: love, gratitude, hope, and the fierce determination to protect this fragile, beautiful thing they'd built together. "I think we can make that wish come true," Ethan said. They walked back to the car, hand in hand, the three of them, a family forged not from blood or obligation, but from choice, from showing up, from being brave enough to be vulnerable, from believing that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments that should have been disasters. Ethan looked at Claire, this woman who'd walked into his life in the most unexpected way possible, and felt a peace he'd never known before. She wasn't perfect. Neither was he. Neither was Lily. But together, they were exactly what they all needed. A few weeks later, on a Sunday morning, Ethan woke to find Claire already up, sitting on their back porch with her coffee, watching the sunrise. He grabbed his own cup and joined her. "You're up early," he said. "Couldn't sleep. Everything okay?" "Better than okay." She turned to him, and her eyes were bright. "I've been thinking about what Lily wished for, about staying like this forever. And I want that too. Not just the idea of it, but the reality. The hard days and the easy ones, the chaos and the quiet, all of it." She took his hand. "I want to marry you, Ethan." His heart stopped. "What?" "I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to spend another day not being your wife, not being Lily's stepmom officially. I want the whole thing, the commitment, the future, the family." "Claire, I'm not asking you to propose right now. I'm just telling you that when you're ready, whenever that is, my answer is yes. It's always been yes." Ethan set down his coffee cup with shaking hands and reached into his pocket. Claire's eyes widened as he pulled out a small velvet box. "I was going to wait," he said. "I was going to plan something romantic and perfect, but screw perfect. We've never been perfect. We've just been real." He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring. Nothing ostentatious, nothing flashy, just beautiful and honest and exactly right. "Claire Whitmore, will you marry me? Will you officially become part of this messy, chaotic, beautiful family? Will you let me love you for the rest of my life?" Claire was crying now, nodding before she could get the words out.
Yes, God, yes.
He slipped the ring on her finger, and she threw her arms around him, both of them laughing and crying and holding each other like they'd never let go. The back door burst open, and Lily came running out in her pajamas.
What's happening? Why are you crying? Happy tears, sweetheart, Ethan said. Claire and I are getting married. Lily's eyes went wide. Then she shrieked with joy and launched herself at both of them, nearly knocking them over.
They caught her and held her between them, this little girl who'd been the catalyst for everything, who'd seen what the adults had been too scared to acknowledge. Does this mean Claire's going to be my stepmom? Lily asked. If that's okay with you, Claire said. It's perfect. Can I be in the wedding? You can be the most important person in the wedding, Claire said, because none of this happens without you. They sat there on the porch, the three of them wrapped up in each other, watching the sun rise on a new day and a new future. And Ethan thought about that moment on the beach, that split second when the wind had changed everything. He'd thought it would be the end of something. Instead, it had been the beginning of love, the beginning of family, the beginning of a life that was messy and imperfect and absolutely, undeniably real. And as Claire kissed him and Lily chattered excitedly about wedding plans, Ethan realized that sometimes the best things in life aren't the ones you plan for. They're the ones that knock you sideways when you least expect them. The ones that terrify you and save you and remind you that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to be happy. It's never too late to come home. 6 months later, on a perfect September afternoon, they returned to the beach one more time. But this time, it wasn't just the three of them. This time, they were surrounded by family and friends, all gathered to witness the moment when Ethan and Claire promised to love each other for the rest of their lives. Lily stood between them as they exchanged vows, holding the rings, her face solemn with the weight of her responsibility. Patricia cried openly in the front row. Michelle sat a few rows back with Greg, smiling despite her own tears. Emma served as maid of honor, and Derek, who'd become an unexpected friend, stood as Ethan's best man. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Ethan pulled Claire close and kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. The crowd cheered, Lily bounced excitedly, and somewhere in the distance the waves crashed against the shore exactly the way they had the day everything changed. Afterward, they walked down to the water's edge, just the three of them, and built one more sandcastle. They knew it wouldn't last. The tide would come in, the wind would blow, and eventually there'd be nothing left but smooth sand and memories. But that was okay, because some things aren't meant to last forever in their original form. Some things are meant to be rebuilt, reimagined, transformed into something even better. As they shaped the towers and dug the moat and created something beautiful out of temporary materials, Ethan realized that this was the lesson. This was what the beach had been trying to teach them all along. Love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about building something together knowing it might not last and choosing to build it anyway. It's about finding beauty in the temporary, strength in the fragile, and forever in the fleeting moments that take your breath away. Claire took his hand, Lily took hers, and they stood together watching the sun sink lower in the sky, painting everything gold. "Ready to go home?" Ethan asked. Claire smiled, that brilliant, unguarded smile that still made his heart skip. "Yeah, let's go home." And hand in hand, they walked back toward their future. Imperfect, uncertain, and absolutely worth every risk they'd taken to get there. Because the truth was, home had never been a place. It had always been the people you chose to build your life with, the ones who saw you at your worst and loved you anyway, the ones who showed up when it mattered and stayed when it got hard. Home was Lily's laughter and Claire's tears, and the way they all fit together like pieces of a puzzle that had been waiting their whole lives to be assembled. Home was this, right here, right now. And it was perfect.